IVM.
Hey everybody, quick request once again, if you could help us out by filling out our survey. It's at ivmpodcast.com/survey. This really helps us talk to advertisers about the kinds of people listening to these shows. Really do appreciate your help, and we're going to be doing a random drawing, and we'll be sending out some IVM swag. Hope you enjoy that.
Once again, everyone, welcome to the Vishal Gondal Show, Beneath the Force, a podcast where we deconstruct the life of super achievers, super performers, and the creative genius people out there. And today I have on my show somebody who I have known for several years, who I have personally been inspired with. And he actually credits himself, and actually not just himself, he credits an entire area, a city, the Nawabo ki city, for his success and where he has been. He's not just an amazing entrepreneur, but he's one of those creative brains, and he has built businesses which are super successful. He has directed movies. He has been in television shows. He's been on radio. He's done it all. So without further ado, let me welcome once again Roshan Abbas. Roshan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Vishal. It's lovely to see you and to hear you. I mean, the best part is that you're in your lovely red as always. And let me tell everybody that Vishal is the man who's introduced me to many things in life with a lot of enthusiasm every time. And I've absolutely always loved his enthusiasm for ideas. But then more than that, I've loved his sheer doggedness of staying with an idea. I mean, and that's the one thing that if I could ever learn from someone, that's what I've learned from Vishal. So this is a mutual admiration society. Welcome to it.
Well,
you're party poopers.
You are my guinea pig, right? Whatever crazy thing I have to try, one of the first persons I have to call is you. So whether it is bulletproof coffee, in fact, even before, for everybody out here, even the first prototype of Goki, even before Goki was made, I had exchanged a lot of notes with Roshan because he was among the first people who was using a tracker. It was called the Body Media.
Yes.
Remember?
Yes.
It was you used to wear it on your bazoo, like a tawiz,
yeah, it was,
literally.
Absolutely. It was an ugly looking device. But you know what happened was that because in 2012, I suddenly got into this thing of saying, I need to be fit. That was 2 years after I turned 40, and I thought my body was giving me all kinds of signals. And I was not wanting to go that conventional route of let's go and meet a surgeon. You know, so-and-so is very famous in Bollywood. He will nip and tuck you.
Exactly.
I just wasn't interested.
And you were the first one who I knew was using MyFitnessPal, who exactly knew the calorie in and calorie out and calorie burning. And I was like, man, this is the person I want to talk to. Because इसे सब कुछ पता है.
You know, Vishal here, I think at a very early stage from my Lucknow days, because of my parents being teachers, one of the key things that happened is that curiosity was deeply encouraged, in our family. And curiosity not at a surface level. Like my dad, I remember when I was doing my first debate, I was all of 10 years old. And you were allowed to be one of the junior speakers in a debate. And I went and my dad wrote my speech for me, and I worked on it. And then when I had to go into the rebuttal and I didn't have an answer for a question, when I came back home, he said, see, I can prepare you for just so much, but the rest you will need to always do yourself. He said, so therefore, kindly don't, one of my father's favorite lines was, kindly don't make sweeping statements. So he would say, dig deep so that you can back up a statement with facts. And I think ever since then, whether it is my love for creativity or curiosity for technology, I like to dig deep. And my biggest rewards in life have come from that. So like when I met you, that's what I said. Your enthusiasm, your passion, your following through was just something that appealed to me so much that I know that if I have something to look at, even me, if I had an idea that I say, listen, this requires to be tested, I'd call you because I know that you would not give me a surface answer. And those are the kind of people I believe we should value in life.
One of the most interesting things about you, Roshan, is, and I don't know how many people know this, but you grew up in a very, very middle-class environment in a city of Lucknow, which is not known for technology or not known for, it is known for kebabs and it is known for, the adab, or as you say, tehzeeb.
Yeah. Lucknow is actually, no, I mean, to put it in a very sweet manner, Lucknow is occasionally also known just for sheer laziness. I have a story I used to tell to.
Pehle aap.
No, and see that Pehle aap goes beyond the regular Pehle aap story. So I often tell people this really funny story about this very dear friend of mine in Lucknow who has this huge palatial house where the kitchen is at one end and his veranda and garden is at the other end. So we would often in winter evenings go and sit in the garden, and as is tradition in Lucknow, you would have chai. So as I went in, he said, "Chai piyoge?" I said, "Yes." And then we waited, and then we waited, and then we waited. And after 30 minutes, I said, "What an uncouth man you are. You asked me for chai and you're not even telling anybody." He says, "Yaar, why will I raise my voice and expend energy? Somebody must be sleeping in the house. I don't want to wake them up. When somebody will show their face, I'll tell them." So Lucknow is like that. Lucknow is very laid back. And in the middle of that laid back, chilled out, let the world go by, Lucknow was born me, who is my friends in Lucknow used to say, "Yaar, tum ye typhoon jaise bataya karo." So when I used to come back from Delhi from college, I'd come with 100 ideas. And they'd say, "Dekho, thoda baith jao. Ye typhoon jaise bataya karo." It was very funny.
So it is very amazing that Lucknow, if you really see from a cultural context, right, it is kind of a melting pot culture, but like you said, it is centered around laziness and around, tehzeeb.
Correct.
But you ended up in a Christian school over there, right? I mean,
Yeah.
You did not go to a traditional school. So how did that happen? Were your parents part of the same school or they were in a different school?
No. So in fact, Vishal, this is where I often talk about my parents because, in middle class families, there are choices to be made. And my sister, my sister's 3 years elder to me. And my parents went to good schools, not the very best of schools because of their circumstance. And my parents both said that we will send our children to the best schools, specifically my mother. My father would occasionally say, because he was teaching at the Polytechnic, and we had really basic beginnings where my dad would take one of those mopeds and before a moped, in fact, cycle 11 kilometers, which in those days, in the early, late 70s or so, was very, very far. But he would cycle to work and earn his keep and come back. And very, very, very proud man, but also very clear about saying priorities and saying, "This is the money I have." My mother was actually a student. And my mother gave up her studies and said, "No, I'm going to take care of my kids and I'm going to go and work because I want to earn enough money to send them to the best schools." So my sister went to Loreto in Lucknow and I went to La Martiniere. And La Martiniere is, again, to describe La Martiniere, it is Hogwarts. It is bigger than Hogwarts. It is the Harry Potter universe all in one with a lake, with a golf course, with riding, with swimming pools, with
Yeah.
You could have 4 Wankhede stadiums in La Martiniere, not one.
4.
So it's huge. And again, a school that was known for, the studies were well known, but more than the studies, it was the extracurriculars. We had very strong army lineage, so we would have NCC and Air Force camps and all of this. But in the midst of all this was me who would go and do dramatics, debating, elocution, quizzing, singing, you name it. And while I was genuinely a good student, I was a 90%er throughout, but theatre and the stage just won my heart since I was actually 4 years old. So that became something that kept me excited, engaged, and again, in a laid-back city. And that's why I keep saying that there is something which is extremely laid-back sometimes about Lucknow. But in that laid-back place, finding a life where you could do so much, you had so much time to do so many things. I didn't need to go and do something after school because I was spending from 8 in the morning to 5 in the evening at school.
But the best thing about you, Roshan, is that you always have somebody else to give credit to. And you always talk about Elton D'Souza, your teacher, who actually played a big role. So what did he exactly do? There were so many other kids in school, right?
Yeah, but again, you must have had a teacher with whom you had a special bond. And I had multiple teachers over the years. But when it came to the real formative years, which are from class 8th all the way to class 12th, while Mr. D'Souza, who was at that time the English teacher for the senior school, the debating and dramatics in charge, and the vice principal of the school, he would always look for people who were enthusiastic about the arts. But, there is a form of teaching which I don't find in MOOCs and online classes, etc., which is teaching by sheer discovery and provocation and by asking you the question that opens up your mind. I remember we were studying Macbeth, and he walked in one day and said, there's a line in that where Lady Macbeth, after killing Duncan, says, there was Duncan lying in his golden blood. And you'd pass the line by and he would turn and say, but why is Duncan's blood described as golden? So, being kids, you would say, because he was rich. And they were like, no. And, he would explain to you how there was a metallic, metals had orders in terms of nobility. And Duncan, being a king, was also meant to be the most noble amongst men. And therefore, his blood is, now imagine that discussion. Imagine having these kind of conversations. And it opens up a portal in your mind. And a portal that pays off because you're constantly taking part in things, you're winning, you're being led, you're being given the right kind of direction. And I think between nature and nurture, there is a very big role that your parents play at home, but your key teachers are your surrogate parents in school. And that's what he gave us. And he challenged us, and he would, again, another unique thing about him as a teacher, if he made a mistake, he'd acknowledge it. Rarely do in the 80s where, Guru Shishya Parampara and, you can't, your teacher is God Almighty. He was human, he was fallible, he would joke. I rediscovered him this year because while he had retired, and I can't tell you, every week in my inbox, there are 4 or 5 emails which he will sweetly write to us and say, you are some of my favorite people, so don't mind the spam. But it's not spam. It is him. It is a piece of ballet, a piece of music, a poetry thing, a question. And I just think that to be able to feed someone's imagination is giving them a space from which a crop of ideas can grow for a lifetime.
But this is not what normal school for other kids were, right? So you were really lucky, and like Absolutely. You said, your parents and your father actually has even written books and stuff, right? He also, apart from being a teacher.
So my dad, and again, my dad was brought up in this. My grandfather was a very well-known lawyer, fought very big cases, had properties in about 8 or 9 cities. Many children, as was the time with 2 generations before us. And with all those children, my dad unfortunately lost his mother when he was very young. So till the age of 9, he was really pampered, had a horse, had a car. And suddenly after 9, he was suddenly almost abandoned because my grandfather used to be busy with work all the time. And this somewhere, I think, impacted my dad's personality. And he suddenly started feeling this thing about, I will need to fend for myself. Therefore, he very quickly abandoned what was his love, which was calligraphy and the arts and poetry and ghazals, and started teaching something wonderful like electrical engineering, but again, just a science. So, there was really no creativity. So I remember when I turned 30, if I'm not mistaken, my dad, I think I was 30 and my dad had just turned 62. And, it was retirement age, and he came to me and he said, Beta, can I retire? So I said, what do you mean? He says, a lot of the work I did was just because I had responsibilities to my family and everyone. And I see you're doing well in life. Are you sure you'll continue to do well? And I said, I think so. And he was like, then can I go and indulge myself? And from that age, for the last 20 years, Vishal, I think 7 or 8 books, multiple articles. Even today, there will be foreign tourists who will travel to Lucknow, come to our house, and you'll find somebody ringing the bell saying, Mr. Abbas, we know you're so busy, but please can you take us and show Lucknow, because we've heard that nobody, and his knowledge, he has knowledge on, there's a website called Academia where people post academic papers. My father has 80 plus papers there.
80 papers?
Wow. 80 plus papers, and he'll send me saying, what do you think about this? And I'll read it with still astounded. And it keeps me going to say that my dad, who's 82 now, if he can do it, then can anybody.
So things were so cool in Lucknow, you were there. Then suddenly, why did you decide to go to Delhi? Why not Mumbai? Why not any other city? Or why not abroad? You could have looked at...
No, Vishal, in 1988, when I was passing out from school, just leaving Lucknow was like, oh my God, this kid is going to go somewhere. And if you were not going to go and do, and in those days, and if you weren't applying for the IIT, or if you're not applying for CPMT, and I was a bio student, then you were lost. Then you were lost cause. And with me, my love for theatre and the arts became so much that I remember in class 12th, over a cup of chai in the evening, and chai is important in my life. In fact, the maid was just bringing some chai, and I told her, like, So you know what typically happens is that we would sit for chai in the evening, and I sat with my parents and I said, guys, I have something to tell you. And my parents thought, here's some big confession. And I said, what if I enjoy the stage more than I enjoy, you know, surgery or biology or whatever? And my parents just sat me down very politely and said, listen, here is our savings. We have no problem with whatever you might want to do, but just realize we have a limited amount of money. So my dad, I think, opened his passport and said, I've got 4 lakhs. Half of this is for your sister. Half of this is for you. So what are you going to do? So I had 2 lakhs coming out of class 12 and had to forge everything for myself. And one boy who was a year senior to me had gone to Delhi to Hansraj College. We didn't know in those days. I promise you, I didn't know I knew Bombay was Bollywood. I didn't know Bombay had universities. We didn't know these things. There was no internet. Remember that. So you know, your knowledge was very limited to just the teachers, everything else. So when I came to Delhi on my own, I had this mission. I have to get into a good college. And I had unfortunately screwed up on one of my papers in the 12th. And, you know, my best of 4 was, I think, 79.2%. And I was earlier just 90. So we had a terrible year. And many students in bio particularly had this problem. So when I came, I was like, where can I get in? I didn't get into St. Stephen's College because the cutoff was 80. I turned and walked to the other side of the road where there was Hindu College. And I walked in and they had this thing saying English literature. And inside the cutoff was again 80 plus. But when I went in, they said there's an extracurricular quota. And I went and told the teacher, I said, sir, I'm a good debater and I've done dramatics, etc. And he just liked my confidence and took me in. And that's how Delhi happened. And again, my parents were very clear, saying, if you're going to Delhi, you're going on your own. We don't want to namby-pamby and, you know, pull you along. We don't want to be these, you know, what you call either helicopter parents or even, you know, parents who are sort of clearing everything out of your way and saying, go and do what you want. So I really had to use that time. And I think that's what made me more of an individual who was responsible, who had a clock ticking in his head saying 3 years of college, then what? And I discovered these things. I remember 3 years I did theatre, I did debating. I used to win most everything in college in Delhi University. And the wonder of wonders was, Vishal, you'd get paid. So when you come from a meager background, and I mean, my staple money from home was about $1,000, but I would make another 1,000 from debates. So I was like, man, this is really cool.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Yeah, debating is amazing.
So, you know, so that happened. And I joined a professional theatre group called Stage Door, and I was traveling the country doing professional plays. And being a professional theatre group, my interaction was always with people who were either 2 steps ahead or 5 steps ahead. And you could see saying, my God, I could become this.
So tell me, while all this theatre was going on, what was the influence of Bollywood or movies on you? You know, or was that world completely alien to you? You were like, yeah, something is happening.
So it wasn't completely alien, as in, I mean, I would take part in all the college fests and sing Pink Floyd in the English things. And I remember Hindi songs that I forget which ones were popular in those. I think there was all that Jumma Chumma and all this stuff that used to go on. And, you know, so we were doing our shit because we were in college and I was in the hostel with 200 other mad boys, you know. But it was crazy. And my exposure to media became 2 students who were seniors in the theatre group who had just joined mass communication. And again, when I told my parents were like, beta, ye hota kya hai? And I was like, listen, I think it has...
Even today, people don't know what is mass communication.
Don't know, you know. So I told them, I said, Mom, it's got something to do with radio and television and the rest I'll figure. And again, just that supreme confidence of my parents saying, okay, you've got it, no problem, we'll do it, you know. And that's what happened. So my exposure was more towards, and guess who was the year I entered mass communication, which was the only, I mean, I was so hyper confident, I didn't apply to anyone else, any other college. People were like, oh, there's this scholarship and there's that and there's this. And I was like, no, you know, though that's not cut out for me. I want to go to MassCom. And everybody said, how many colleges have you applied to? I said, I applied to 1. And they were like, you're sure you'll get through? It's the only master's degree in Asia. They only take 30 students from over, at that point in time, I think it was around 3,000 applications. And I was like, no, I'll get through. And I did. And as I entered, somebody turned and said, Are, you know, tum theatre karte ho, don't turn out to be like that other student from this institute. And I said, which one? And they said, Shah Rukh Khan.
Wow, that's a very, very good company to be in. And of course, I remember your professor was the great Amir Raza Hussain.
Yeah. So Amir actually was my theatre teacher because Amir Amir was the professional head of Stage Door. And when I joined Stage Door...
Oh, that is not, sorry. Amir was not part of the college. He was part of Stage Door. Sorry,
no. So Amir discovered me in first year college when I went to take part in and this is an amazing story where I was doing there was a short story by Somerset Maugham called Lord Mondragon.
So I think for people, the millennials of today have no idea who Amir Raza Hussain is, right? So I think people should know.
But they should know. So Amir Raza Hussain actually did the biggest spectacles in Indian theatre, which included The Legend of Ram, which was done bigger than Broadway, much bigger than Broadway. He did something called the 50-Day War, which was about the Kargil War as a play. And Amir was India's answer to Broadway, frankly. I've never seen anybody do spectacles the way that he did them. And a lot of our learning, and Amir was again one of those, Amir did Starlight Express by getting the army to construct a bridge in an auditorium. Amir got the railways to lay down a track and put bogies on which performances were happening. He was crazy. But working with him actually was the gateway to my event life, because I realized that this man just taught us the never say die spirit of just go and do things. And it's a tragedy that Amir didn't take well to Bollywood, because he did try to make his foray with one film, but he wanted to run a film set like a theatre set, which is, if you haven't come on time, leave the set, and he was trying to do that with Bollywood actors. Some of them left and never came back.
So which movie did he direct?
He tried to actually convert the 50-Day War, the Kargil film, into the first film on Kargil. And wonders of wonders, little trivia, Kabir Khan was his cinematographer.
Ooh.
But they came back in a week because they just couldn't make the set run. It was crazy. And that part of my life would make a film by itself. And I think someday it will, because it was the best of times and the worst of times. And again, Amir was just this man who taught us.
And Amir also did Mahabharat, right? He was also involved with Mahabharat.
So he never produced Mahabharat as a play. It was The Legend of Ram, which happened in Bombay, which was stupendous.
No, the TV show. Wasn't he part of the TV show?
No, he wasn't. He actually in theatre did, even now, I think still continues to do a play or two a year, but... I can regale you with such crazy stories of Amir. Let me give you an example. So we were doing Witness for the Prosecution, which is a play that is set in a courtroom, and then it's the lawyer's house. And therefore, you needed a quick change set in 1992. 1992, nobody knew how to do a quick change set, but Amir had seen this in London, and therefore we had to do it. So we made sets that were made in plywood. You didn't even try to make them in thin material that could easily travel. Thick plywood, the kind you use for those proper doors and rooms. Put on these little roller coasters. So these rollers, so you could turn the set around.
Turn them, yeah.
So that play had a jury and everyone else. And I said, Amir, did you specifically choose so many people so that they could help turn the set around in the middle of the play? Because we used to, I'm telling you, middle of the thing, you got to change the set in 3 seconds in darkness. And people are going nuts and all this was happening. Now we finished that play. We were very joyous. It was brilliant as a play. I played the hero villain in that and whatever, etc. And I was delighted. And on stage, this is December, Jan 20th or whatever, I think were the next date. So we've done so well and now we're going to get a good break. And Amir goes on stage, and as we are bowing to the audience, turns and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for all your love. I want to announce that in January we'll be doing My Fair Lady, the musical." And we're like, you're nuts. 45 days you'll do a musical. He says, "Kar lenge." And then we started working on the musical. So that is, that screw it, let's do it attitude was what Amir really, really taught us.
Amazing. And I think, that's really some of the early days of theatre, and that's the event, your whole event DNA came out of there, right? Which is interesting. But I think even before that, you were crazy about advertising and radio.
Yeah.
And you were among the first radio jockeys, if you have to use that word, or radio presenters in the country. So how did you enter the world of radio?
So again, crazy story. I had done a little bit of Akashvani in Lucknow. And when I finished that, I came to Delhi, and having finished mass communication, I didn't have a job. So for 3 to 6 months between 1993 to 1994 mid, I didn't have a job. I kept doing odd jobs. I'd do a voiceover, I'd write a script, I'd try to assistant direct Amir in a play, and theatre wasn't a paying profession. So, you just didn't have stability. And I needed money desperately at that point. And I was like, how do I get this? And one day sitting in the evening, I switched on the radio. And there was a gentleman who was a Bombay radio jockey, early radio jockeys in those days, who was talking about jazz music. But, Vishal, he was talking in that, ladies and gentlemen, the next song, and it just sounded extremely boring, extremely didactic, extremely one way. And I was like, this man he just isn't getting his audience. And I got so upset. So I asked one or two friends saying, "Yaar, ye kya hai?" So they said, "This is FM, which is a new channel which is launched. You should be on it." I said, "Okay." Next day, I took my bike in the morning, 10 rupees of petrol in my SD, drove from Safdarjung Enclave to Parliament Street. And then I realized that getting into a government institute is a job by itself. So there were these huge gates and this very khadus, gate man, and he would chuck everyone out. Yeah. Kaun ho? Kisse milna hai? Kya kar rahe ho? And he would interrogate them. So I said, "Man, the way to get in is this man." So I said, isko set karna. So I watched him for half an hour or an hour. And I actually observed him completely. And then when he went and took his break, I had my Jadoo Ki Chappi moment. I went to the tea stall and I asked for 2 cups of tea. And that man looked and I said, "Ek inke liye." And he had a big smile on his face because nobody would offer this man anything, right? And I even to date say, Vishal, that very often the gatekeeper to a huge opportunity is not the biggest person.
But
it might be the smallest person. If you just give them the right importance and attention, they might hold the key. And that's what happened. So I talked to this guy and over a cup of chai, conversation happened. Kya karte ho? I said, "Sir, maine mass communication padha hai." "Haan, padh ke to yahan bahut log aate hain." I said, "But I want to know what this is about. Acha, FM pe karna hai, blah, blah, blah." He got my gate pass made. He escorted me in. He dropped me to the assistant station director's room.
Wow.
And I turned to him and said, "Bhaiya, thank you so much." And that was it. I was in. And now I just needed to convince the assistant station director, which I did.
So this is for all the people who write emails and tweets to me and everybody else, ki I want funding, you are not responding to my emails. That's not how things happen. You have to find the best examples. You have to find somebody who knows somebody, and that is the best way to go to them, right? And the gatekeeper is just an example of how you did it way back in the 90s.
No, absolutely. And Vishal, more than that, it's that even today people say this thing, and I turned 50 this year, man, during the pandemic, and I was like, I was sitting with some people and I was like, "I give you the shit you give to everyone, I'm growing old." And they said, "Man, your mind is sharper, you're far more into about most things." And I said, actually, yeah, I am, because my belief is that you have to just find a way. Don't get stuck on a plan, You've got to, don't just have a dream, have a plan, have an execution strategy, go for it, and go for it relentlessly. So I chase things relentlessly. I do lose interest once I've achieved them sometimes, but this is what I did with radio. I just stuck with it. Overnight, I got a job to do a show in 2 days of time, which was a challenge, but I managed. And I produced a show which when I finished, and it was a show called 10 se 11, where I said I'll play 10 new songs and 1 old song. And the person said, "Why would you do that?" I said, "No, I want to give them a little bit of today, which is bubblegum music, but I want to give them 1 classic so that they get a sense of what it is." And he liked the idea and they gave me the show. When I finished the show, there was a peon waiting outside and looked at me and said, "Station director sahab ne bulaya hai." And I was so scared, saying my first show, you talk to the person who's in charge of the room. Don't even talk to the assistant station director.
Station director.
Station director ne bulaya. I said, "Mar gaya." I went there, there was Mr. Kapoor, and I remember he sat me down in this mega big office, which most of these people have. And he just turned to me and he said, "Beta, there was a man I knew who used to connect to people. His name was Amin Sayani."
Yeah.
And I heard that and I said, "Sir, of course I know Amin Saab." And he gave me the biggest compliment. He says, "You have his quality, don't let it go." And that was enough. Sometimes you just need that one pat on the back. You need that fuel to your fire. And I stuck with it, man. I just stuck and I went hammer and tongs for the opportunity. I must have done, there was a time when I would wake up in the morning, do a show in the afternoon, do a show at night. And Times FM had given me that opportunity because they had signed me on for a 10,000 rupee contract and wanted to make the most of it. And I said, "I will not budge from my money. Aap mujhe jitna kaam kara lo, mujhe problem nahi."
Yeah.
But what they didn't realize is that we were the VJs, the YouTubers of that time.
And there was one Mr. Arora, right? In Times FM was Arora or Aruna?
Yes. So he was later. He was there later. Yeah. He was in fact the head and whatever. Wonderful person, wonderful person. So it was all these people, and because consumption is a habit which becomes a drug, and I say that in the good sense of the word. That if you like to consume Vishal's podcast, you'll keep coming back. Similarly, so because I used to be on morning, afternoon, night, people got used to me. I became their morning cup of tea. So after a year of doing FM, one day I went home and my mother had come from Lucknow and she said, "Beta, there's a strange man sitting outside and he's refusing to leave." And I thought this is something strange. And I went out and there was this guy said, "Sir, आपके senior mass communication से रोहित खन्ना है, and रोहित खन्ना साहब एक टीवी शो बना रहे हैं, उन्होंने कहा कि जब तक रोशन को लेके नहीं आना तब तक वापस मत आना."
Wow.
And that's how I signed my first TV show.
Wow. What was that show called? Power something, right? What was it?
Public Demand.
Public Demand. Yeah. Public, not Power.
So Public Demand was nothing but 10 songs which were contemporary. At the same time, suddenly, because I was doing Public Demand and there were two, or the television was just beginning. I mean, Zee TV and Star TV had just started.
And Public Demand was on which network? Public Demand used to come on.
It was on the Zee network, and it was on a sister channel called LTV. But my actual shows at that point in time, there was another channel called BITV which was launched, which had a show which I did called Shopping Hangama. And these are shows which possibly none of you would saw, because my biggest show then became Mastercard Family Fortune on Star.
Yeah.
But what happened was these shows were again lifelines, because again, and I keep telling these stories to people saying, guys, don't say no to opportunity. Somebody called me for a Diwali party. I'm not very social and I like my bunch of friends. But in those days I said, chalo chalte hain. When I went to the Diwali party, people were doing their own things and there were some people looking very bored, and I was like, guys, this is getting very boring. Chalo kuch karte hain. And they said, kya karte hain? And I said, let's all entertain each other. And somebody took out a harmonium and started singing. And I used to do all my impressions of Michael Jackson and so and this and that. And I started doing all of that. And there was this really big built, brawny British man who just kept looking at me and laughing and looking at me and laughing. And I said, well, what is this? And he came up to me and he said, my name is Bob Merrilees and I'm from Fremantle, India. And I'd like to sign you on as our television anchor. And these were still my struggling days.
You go to a random Diwali party and the guy wants to sign you as an anchor.
Correct, man. Yeah. And when I was going the next day to negotiate, Vishal, this is the time when, as I told you, radio used to pay me 10K for a month of work. And this guy came to me and said, we can't afford to pay you too much, but we will pay you 5,000 rupees an episode. And I'm like calculating in my head, saying, how many episodes? And he says, there will be 52 episodes in a year. So I'm quickly doing my maths and saying that's 2.6 lakhs. And then he says, we will shoot all 52 in 13 days.
Wow.
And I'm like, man, this is it. Life is changing. And suddenly everything changed, because I suddenly understood the value for my talent. Creative people very often get carried away by the creativity and cast the commerce aside and then crib for the rest of their lives. And my issue is no. I'm like very clear. Dekho boss, clear kar lo.
No, and I think it's about saying yes to every opportunity, especially in your early days, right? You cannot start.
Correct.
A lot of people get too stuck up कि मैं ये करूँगा और ये नहीं करूँगा. And I see that especially in today's youngsters.
बिल्कुल.
They have a very strong choice कि no, मैं ये नहीं करूँगा. Like यार, हम लोग ने सब कुछ किया था, ऐसा choice ही नहीं था.
Try to karo. And again, you don't know what you will learn from that one encounter, from that 2 days of doing something. And which is why, I mean, how many places have you and I bumped into where we are not, we are there. We've been invited, we are speakers, but we could leave the minute we finish speaking. But we are curious people. We are enthusiastic about ideas. We want to listen to other people. And I think we are good students of life.
And I believe in serendipity. And for serendipity to work, you have to go out and be present where serendipity can happen. You can't be sitting at home and expect serendipity to happen. Right?
Absolutely. And that's what happened. Rajesh Sawhney, for example, by the way, our common point is Rajesh Sawhney as well. Rajesh was the sales head when I was on radio. That's how I know Rajesh.
At times.
And at times. And Rajesh was one guy who defended us as radio jockeys. So essentially it became a lot about just him defending us at a point when he said, no, I'm going to stand by the talent because it's because of these guys that the station runs. And he stood by us.
I know Rajesh when he was executive assistant to Vineet Jain. Before this.
Imagine.
So Rajesh has really been an amazing guy in terms of identifying early he's really a master at talent spotting, as I say.
And which is why even to date, when I work with him closely in GSF and occasionally, it's just that there's certain faith that you have in people, and you look at what they do and how they follow through on opportunities. Again, his enthusiasm for spotting talent, going after ideas. And that's why I do it. So I think, serendipity is a very big thing.
There is another very interesting common link we have. And again, somebody we both know is Sandeep. Sandeep Goyal, the great Sandeep.
The great Sandeep Goyal. So again, interesting story. In my early days in Delhi, when I was doing these 3 or 4 television shows, and I used to host possibly every big event in Delhi, be it a fashion event, be it a big launch, everything. So I was quite in demand. Sandeep and I met at 1 or 2 of these launches, and he said, he took a shine to me, and he used to run Rediffusion in those days. And I would go and sit in his office, and I could write songs, and I could come up with theatre ideas and all this. And he would come and say, "Yaar, ye product Maruti ka launch hai, kya kar sakte hain?" And I would come up with an idea. Then he would come back and say, "Acha, Airtel ka launch hai, kya kar sakte hain?" And I would come up with ideas. And while I have gone and pitched everything from Baba Zarda to, there was NIT, so NIT, Baba Zarda, Maruti Suzuki, Airtel, every pitch. But for me, I was doing an MBA because he was the best person to teach you how to run an agency. And I was with him day before on a debate that was happening where he had put the entire idea of the debate together. And I know the first time when Carol, his daughter, called and said, "Will you host the debate for us?" I said yes, because again, Sandeep does crazy, fun, mad things, and being engaged with them gives me another opportunity to reconnect. But what a fun man.
And just to give you, so what he was doing with you, he was doing something similar to me, but on a technology space. He used to say, "Arey, hum is pitch ke liye ja rahe hain, kuch aisa technology dikhao ki wo pagal ho jaye." So, he was the pitch doctor, right? I mean, he used to go and...
Brilliant pitch doctor.
So I remember he taking me with him to Trivandrum to pitch to Kerala Tourism.
Wow.
And I had created a touch screen kiosk with all the Kerala tourism shebang, and we took this entire system there, and the secretary came and he tried this computer and he was blown out, and I think they finally won that whole idea, that whole project from Kerala Tourism. But Sandeep is the one who I learned that how he was like, he could orchestrate an event then and there itself. I mean, he's really amazing, and no wonder,
No, see again the joy of connections, of putting the right ingredients together. देखो, आप ingredients आपको दे सकते हो, उससे बिरयानी बनेगी या भरता ये किसी को नहीं पता, right? So I think you need a master chef of ideas in that sense. You need somebody who gets how much of this, how much of that, and Sandeep was brilliant at that, absolutely.
And he could actually put it together, right? See, the khayali pulao तो बहुत बना सकते हैं लोग, but उसको actually deliver करना is Sandeep. And
correct.
At what point of time you decide to start your own agency? Because working for an agency and then saying I'm starting a company, going entrepreneurial was a different challenge altogether. And then at what point did you move to Mumbai or Bombay? Us time to Bombay tha.
So what happened, Vishal, was that again, being the face of all of these events and doing them, I'm also not the person who can be half into anything. So if I was hosting an event for a company, I would sit with the company head and say, this part is wrong. Can you fix this? And sometimes I realize it's not my remit. I'm only hosting the event, but I would still say my piece. And because I was the anchor, everybody else would listen. Many event agencies in those days, and there are early days, there weren't too many event agencies in Delhi.
I mean, the ultimate is Viscraft, which is really the agency.
So Viscraft was in Bombay, remember? They weren't even in Delhi. So in Delhi, there were agencies like Magnum Nexus, Celebration Services, small things.
And somehow I have this impression that even today, agency Bombay se jaake Delhi mein execute karti. Delhi ki koi agency hai nahi abhi bhi. It's an impression. No, it's an impression. It's an impression
correct,
that, Delhi mein agar agency loge to aapko thag liya jayega.
Not true, because we started from Delhi, but we started with the same thing which you said, that many people in Delhi would come to me and say, "Roshan, there's an event, will you host it?" And I'd say yes. And then they would come and say, "Acha, what idea do you think we should do?" And I would sit and come up with the entire plan. Say, you should do this and you should do this. And sometimes I would wait and say, "Yaar, wo event ki booking to kar gaye the, event nahi hua." And I would realize that the event happened, they took my idea and sold it to someone else. And this was typically, that chalu chaltu kind of Delhi. And it pissed me off once, it pissed me off twice. And see, that's why I keep saying, don't sit and crib, do something about it. So when this happened to me 3 or 4 times, I was like, you know what? There is a huge gap between what people sell and what they deliver. There is a big demand and people are obviously not able to provide it. I've spent time with Sandeep and have a sense of how an agency should function. Why not formalize what I know informally in my head and bring a bunch of people together and try it? And lo and behold, from a Singer event, which was 1 lakh, the person who was the head of marketing at Singer, and I came up with this musical called Kal Aaj Aur Kal with songs and dance and everything. Nice, tight 20-30 minute musical, but very well received. And that marketing director, Ajay Sachdev at that time for Singer, just remembered me. And he said, Roshan, you turned the fortune of the company around by what you did. I'll never forget this. I thought, okay, it's done and over with. But what happened was that he actually, 6 months later, in Jan of 97, he called and said, Roshan, and I used to operate out of my house. So I would pick up my house phone and change my accent depending on whether it was a professional call or whether it was an anchor call. So I said, yes. He says, do you remember this was Ajay Sachdev and whatever? And I was trying. And he says, well, I've got a job for you and it's a lot bigger than last time. I hope you can handle it. Come and meet me. And their office used to be in Sofitel Surya. So it's a 5-star hotel. They have an office. I'm so excited. And went and he was the head of Motorola paging. Pager. And he said, Roshan, we've got to launch this pager because there was no concept of mobile phone. So he said, this is going to change and revolutionize communication and it'll do this and it'll do that, blah, blah, blah. And I said, but what's the budget? And he says, we don't have too much money. And I'm saying, okay, they spent 1 lakh in Singer. They spent 2 lakhs. He came back saying 10 to 15 lakhs. And I'm like, ting, 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 And I just put my team, I actually put the team together during the project, did that show. Show happened in Delhi and Bombay. And by the end of that year, I found that whatever I had to do in Delhi had only 2-3 production houses. And Bombay was where the cream of entertainment was. I was just about to start doing Family Fortunes and all this stuff. And I was like, man, if I'm going to do all of these things, I might as well do them from Bombay, On a personal note, I had actually had a whirlwind romance and marriage with a classmate of mine in Delhi during MassCom. And I was married at that point, but things weren't going too well because I was too focused on my work and everybody went their own way. And so 97 was also a time when we sort of separated and I said, I need a new place. I need a break. And I moved to Bombay. And when I came to Bombay with this sort of saying, chalo, dekhte hain kya hoga. And I set up the office was maybe 100 square feet in a building called Midas Chambers, which by the way overlooked an office, which when I asked somebody saying, ye kya hai? They said, sir, a company hai Balaji Telefilms. And that's the year when KBC started and Kyunke Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi started. And our claim to fame was that our window used to overlook Balaji, so we could tell what was happening in the next couple of episodes always. It was so funny. But that's what happened. And to be in Bombay with my partner taking care of the business in Delhi, and we had already grown within no time. We had become about a 10 crore agency in Delhi.
Because I know it was called BTL, right? So this whole thing was ATL and BTL.
Correct.
And there was no online or, so either there was A or B.
No.
And BTL, I remember that there were not too many agencies with credibility. There was only one which everybody talked about, which is Viscraft.
Correct.
And there was one more. I think Brian, there was a
Fountainhead.
Yeah, Fountainhead. So that there were 2 names, I remember. And then you became the third big force to talk about.
Yeah. And what happened was, and again, I've got to give credit because Encompass is actually built, and I mean, we came up with the name Encompass saying we will be all encompassing. We will be the bridge between the ATL and the BTL. We understand television, we understand radio, we understand theatre, we understand events, we have a little bit of understanding because of Sandeep, etc., of advertising. So so I used to keep saying we are the through the line agency, And I love coining these kind of things and whatever. But the team that we put together was really A grade because I picked people much like what people are doing today, that rather than pick a person through their CV, I picked them by what they were doing. So here's a great writer, here's a great performer, here's a great thinker, here's a great audiovisual maker. And I put those kind of teams together. And therefore the culture and creativity of Encompass made us extremely famous. And in no time, between our rise was meteoric. We had, at the time of our acquisition, which was 2008, we had 7 offices across India. We were in every major city and we were doing big events. We were still very corporate in our events. But our ambition was to start doing bigger things. And in that second, what I call the second decade of Encompass, because the first one was say from 1997 to 2008, and then from 2008 all the way to 2015, we just grew to do everything from the IPL opening ceremonies to the South Asian Games to the BRIC Summit for India. I mean, you name it, we were doing it. We were doing millions and everything.
Getting to that event business, right? So event business also had a lot of other challenges because, the telecom business was good. The malls have just started. And I remember actually we did work with Encompass for an event which India Games used to do, which is World Cyber Games.
Correct.
So our entire gaming offline, Abhi, which esports people are talking about today, we were doing this in the early 2000s.
No, I often look at how, frankly, somebody had to look at the pioneers of what is today being called the passion economy, etc., whatever. Frankly, it was what you were doing. It was what a couple of the event agencies were doing. It was what the concert producers were doing. It's what the film event agencies were doing. The sports agencies were trying to do. It had just begun. And that today is, frankly, the economy that I thrive in. I mean, everything that I do, whether it's Commune, whether it is even today Encompass in its one form, or Glitch. Like when I invested in Glitch in 2011, I remember people were like saying, "Are ye Facebook likes wali company?" I said, "No. This is not a Facebook likes wali company. This is a company that understands this new medium which is developing called digital, and they know how to engage audiences there. And that agency is today amongst India's top 3 agencies in digital. Encompass amongst India's top agencies in experiential. So, you bet early and then you follow through. Yeah.
And you also were among the first people who exited to WPP, right? Yeah. I mean, that itself, I remember meeting you and talking about it, right? That was a tough decision because you had built an agency. Of course, now WPP has made a lot of acquisitions, but you were among the first, literally Absolutely. Among the first, which they did. So how was it in 2008 to do an acquisition or to get acquired?
So I will only say one thing, which is that I am by nature a very trusting person. And when the deal happened, I just loved Colvin Harris because he was the head of JWT. Michael Meadle and Nick Romas, who were our regional, team from JWT. And we had one meeting with Martin Sorrell when he was dying down. But I knew that these are the people we were going to deal with. So I loved this set of people for one. I'm a very people's person. And I often tell people saying, don't evaluate things just on the profitability, but on the fact that will you be able to spend an evening which is not about work with those people as well. Because, people need to add value to your life. And I resonated with them, as did our team. So the decision was a little easier. Sukrit, who was my partner at the time, was very clear that legacy is what we need to be building. And he said, Roshan, we've done this. And how many years can we do this? And I'm glad he said that because for me, I'm always looking for the next thing and whatever. And you need somebody who will hold the guard, but you also need somebody who will, otherwise, so somebody's looking ahead and looking to the horizon on what's next, but somebody is holding the forts and manning the gates as it was, which was what Sukrit was doing. So I kept looking at these new things. And when this whole idea came about of selling, Ranjit, who was our COO at the time and our CFO almost, and he's one of my best friends and I trust him implicitly. And you won't believe, Vishal, I looked at those papers maybe once when I was signing them.
Wow.
I didn't because, and people are like, how many times? I said, guys, I'm sorry. It's not the best advice in the world because you do sometimes oversee a thing or two, but relationships are based on trust. And yes, you need lawyers and yes, you need to cross your T's and dot your I's, but somewhere trust has to be implicit in a relationship. And that's what I did. And so when people were like, you sold like that? I said, yeah. And they were like, what about? I said, what about me? Dunya nikal jayegi. What if the world ended tomorrow? What if this happened? I said, let's go on. And I immediately carved out a role for myself saying, guys, I will give this 3 days a week because the rest of the time I want to chase my other dream, which was I always wanted to make films because that's what I learned in mass communication.
No, but even before films, you did a whole musical, right? That was the original musical.
Yes. So and see, that's what happened. That because I was doing theatre with Amir, one of my dreams was to write and direct my own play. And I used to do every summer. I used to do workshops to train young kids in school in a little bit in theatre, a little bit in radio, whatever I learned. I used to just say, listen, pass it on to the next lot. My first batch of students, Vishal, was Sameer Kochar, Neha Dhupia, Gaurav Kapoor, Ritu Paran Thakur, Sudhi Sachdev, Priyanka Bose.
These are your students.
They were my students. They were in class 11th and 12th. Not GK. GK was in first year college by that time. But these were all, they would all come and do theatre with me, etc. And in that summer workshop, one day I told these kids, because they said, you've taught us everything, you haven't taught us how to write. And I was like, listen, I've read a lot of plays. I've not written one myself. But I tell you what, why don't you guys have a premise and come back? And these kids came back with their ideas, and all their ideas, Vishal, were about Jack and John, and I was like, hello. I tore it all up and I said, Hindustan hai, apne baare mein likho.
Ye India hai.
The next week when they came back, Vishal, they came back with things that made me, I'm one of those soppy Indian emotional types. I was reading things and almost in tears, because one girl said that, I'm not allowed to take part in athletics because my mother wants me to be Miss India and she doesn't want me to graze my knees. Another kid came and said that, I just don't know how to tell my parents that I don't want to be a scientist because 3 generations of my family are scientists and I don't want to do it. But for their sake, I keep killing my dreams and living theirs. So when I read all these lines, they inspired me so much that I wrote the play Graffiti. And Madcap, Valentine Shipley, my friend, was one of the people helping Silk Route with their music.
And Graffiti was also the movie you made, right?
So the movie 10 years later became Always Kabhi Kabhi, the film.
And that too under Red Chillies, right? So that was under
Red Chillies. Yeah, because what happened was that after doing the play in 97 to 99, I was very excited about, I'll make this into a film. And I lived with that dream for a good 8-9 years. And I used to keep writing versions of it. But I had not studied film writing. And the one thing which is very important to understand is that when an idea transcends a medium, you have to be cognizant of what that medium does. So I very honestly wrote the play and converted it into a film and said, ye ho jayega. I was working with Shah Rukh and doing a lot of stage shows, and we used to travel across the world. And occasionally we would get that little time before a show where he would turn and ask me, so what are you up to? And I keep telling people, saying, are you ready with what somebody asks you, saying, so kya kar rahe ho? If you say, nothing, that's it, that's the end of the conversation. But are you ready? So when he asked me, I told him, I said, you'll laugh because everybody must be telling you this, but I've written a film as well and I want to make it. So I said, he smiled and he said, he said, what's it about? And I made him the best pitch in the world. I said, it's a film that doesn't need you. Now imagine telling that to Shah Rukh Khan, and Shah Rukh Khan suddenly gives the look saying, what do you mean? Now I've got his attention. And I said, no, I mean, it needs you as a producer, not as an actor, because it's about kids passing out from high school. And he knew of my play and he said, it's that play you've done, right? I said, yeah. I said, jab ho jaye to mere ko bhej dena. And I thought I say bol diya. And then 3 months later, Kareem bhai called me and said, Roshan, where's your script? And I'm like, I've written it. It's a draft. And then I went into what is called development hell, which is that we all shook and said we are making the film, and then nobody said when. So for 2 years, we just kept doing rewrites. We just did rewrites and rewrites. And again, I have in hindsight and often heard that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. But what happens is that, it takes that one thing that, अरे यार इसको आज की film बना देते हैं. Now what happens is, जो 97 में लोगों की communication device थी, which was a pager, वो जो games खेलने जाते थे, the things they used to do, they were not doing in 2010. But, I should have just said 1997 and rolled the same film and it would have worked. But the minute you try to contemporize it and make it
you make it present, it's a challenge.
And that was where my fault lay. But I still made it with completely honest intent. My joys are, I launched 3 beautiful, beautiful actors. Ali Fazal, Giselle Montero had done one film, Lavajkal, Zoa Murani, who was Justin Tesh, and Satyajit Dubey. These were wonderful young kids and a whole bunch of other kids who I worked with. My surname is Abbas, but many people who work with me drop the S and say you behave like the proverbial Abba.
Abba.
So on set also I'm called Abba.
No.
So I was Abba to a crew of 100 people who are still all in touch with me, who I still am a part of their lives, and I love that.
So tell me, how did they finally greenlight the movie, right? Because 2 years under development is a long time.
Yeah, so 2 years of development, we did about 80 odd drafts of the script, and then one day I said, tell you what, listen, this is a waste of everyone's time. Give me what will make you commit to the film. So they said, I'll tell you what, why don't you shoot in your head a trailer for the film? And I shot a trailer in Jan 2010. And they loved it. And honestly, it was a really good trailer. And And see, trailers are the best bits of a film, right? So it wasn't difficult. I took my best scenes and put it together, and they loved it. And they were like, man, this is fabulous. Go with it. We then spent about a couple of months still looking for a cast because we were missing one character and all this stuff. But we did all of that. And the minute Shah Rukh saw that promo, he looked at it and he said, go make it. Because honestly, the promo held great promise. And then we spent all of 2010 and a little bit of 2011 in completing the film. Released it, I think, in 2011 during the last week when IPL had got over. And again, the mistake: don't release a film when 8 other films release, because you don't have enough screens here in India. So what happens is that itna divide ho jata.
So is the movie about any Is it available on any OTT platform for people?
Yes. So I think it was sold in a bulk deal to Zee. So Zee and Star both have shown it many times, and I get fan mail from young kids every now and then. Somebody will write because it still talks of very human things, and the music by Pritam was great. The acting, Ali was, I thought, stupendous in it. Everyone. So honestly, when I look back on it, it was a nice first attempt. I'm a little overcritical, but it's still a dream that I hold. Saying, okay, I will continue to make films. Maybe I'll just make them a little differently now. But that's
but Roshan, so one thing, if I have to put it in the gaming parlance, right, you have always leveled up, right, from the school kid from Lucknow to going to Delhi, and then you leveled up to become a radio presenter, then a TV presenter, then you went to advertising agency, then you started your own agency, then you directed a play, then you directed a movie, and now you are again wearing you are investing in companies, you are wearing multiple avatars.
Yeah.
So what is truly your passion? Is it ideas? Is it entertainment? What do you think is your true passion?
I genuinely think that content drives me. The format of the content. So on the way right now, I was reading a short story someone sent me. The minute I read it, I was like, this will make a great short film. Now my mind is saying, how do I get it done? And I am not the one thing which very often people get a little taken aback by and then really like it. I don't operate from a place of ego. So what happens is I'm not thinking, main isme kya karunga. So my Instagram handle says connecting people to possibilities. And I really feel that I'm a bridge that's what I do. I now live my dreams through other people. I see what other people are doing and I enjoy it tremendously. But content drives me. Like if I was to do a Broadway play, and I've half written my Broadway play. And I'm like, I will make it. If I had to do a biographical film, and again, it's not saying, when I say I, doesn't mean I need to direct it. Maybe I would produce it. Maybe I would, bring 3 people together. Yesterday, I bumped into Imtiaz at Soho, and he's a junior of mine from college, brilliant filmmaker, great friend. And 2-minute conversation. He says, "Yeah, I'm thinking of this." I said, "You know what? Commune's got a bunch of young writers. Acha, can we bring them together?" And that's it. It's this thing of always being available to say, yes, I'm interested. I'm interested in what you want to do, not in what I want to do all the time.
See, because what has now happened is suddenly, because of YouTube and TikTok and all these platforms, every person with a phone has become a creator, or they think they are a creator.
Correct.
So suddenly that universe of Commune, which was a few hundred or maybe 500 people, every day you open your app and you suddenly find this nobody from some very, very remote place where you don't know, and they're dancing like Hrithik Roshan or singing like Lata Mangeshkar. So what is your advice to all these people? Because you have now seen content, right from the highest level to possibly the lowest level of all kinds, given what you do.
Yeah. So Prasoon Joshi said something wonderful. He said the joy of today's generation is you have a device where you can create. But the other part of that same device is that there is this dangerous button called send, which you are itching to press without reviewing, without sitting back, without looking at what you created. And he says, the process of review, the process of, is this my best? The process of, let me make this tighter. Just this process of not creating and pressing send. The time you need to send between coming up with an idea, letting it marinate, bringing the best elements together. I think there is this rush of putting it out, which is creating an issue with quality. Short form content is something which we don't sometimes look for quality, but quality stays. Quality Why is it that we will still hum that one song that for our generation works? And when you will analyze it, yes, you will have that one mad party song, but that song that really touches your heart will have great lyrics, great music, great singing. So try to find the highest common factor, not the lowest common denominator. The lowest common denominator will very often get you the eyeballs, but it won't get you a recall, right? You need to do that and constantly look for people who will make you or your creation better. I have no qualms in reaching out to people and saying, if you add yourself to this, it'll make you better. I really feel that we are now, me and Commune are in the business of creative expression and trying to, we say that every story deserves a stage. And so to everybody out there, your story will find its stage. But for the story to find the stage, do you know the grammar of that stage that you want to get into? Do you understand what's a beautiful cut? And yes, there is a joy to raw things. But there is also a joy to something that is slow cooked. There is a joy to something which has the right ingredients, not just lots of ingredients. So I'm saying that whole choice, making the choices, making the right things, that's where I believe people should concentrate on. And the form is not important. The form could be anything. The device could be anything.
I think the challenge is today's generation has become the instant gratification generation, right? Everybody wants things now. People send you a WhatsApp, they want the reply now. That, blue tick ho gaya, aapne padha kyun nahi mera message, reply kyun nahi kiya? So this whole thing that, we've been used to waiting for days for somebody to call you back, and here people don't have the patience for waiting for somebody to even respond to a WhatsApp. So I think this whole instant gratification is a problem.
I think what's happened, Vishal, is that again, sometimes when we talk of instant gratification, I turn and say, dekho, hamara instant gratification for the Sunday movie was the VCR. Hamara instant gratification for the cassette deck was FM. So we had it. It's just that the timeline has shrunk too much. That's the only thing. And that's why I keep saying that pause. Pause is as play ke paas ek aur button hota tha, pause. वो बहुत important button है.
ठहराव लाना जरूरी
ठहराव बिल्कुल वही जरूरी होता है. That people will send me things and whatever, and I'll say, did you review it? No, I sent it. I said, no. Review it. Read it. Remove the obstacles in its path. There are so many obstacles you created of your own, and when you do that, what comes out is gold.
So, one of the best tips I give people in my team and generally is when people make PowerPoint presentations. I tell them that, and this is a tip for everybody hopefully out there, that just read the headline. And if you read just the headlines of all your slides, that itself should tell you the story.
Correct.
If you're assuming that people are going to read the contents of your slide and that is your story, then you're dead.
Absolutely.
So the headlines itself, the title screen of every slide is what people read, and nothing else is what you have to assume. That is really what has happened to attention.
101%. Couldn't agree more.
So in this low attention economy, what is Commune doing differently? Because like I said, there are so many creators out there, right? Thousands and thousands of creators. So Commune ka idea kahan se aaya? Aur kya ho raha hai? How are people becoming part of it?
Again, I'll tell you, what happened with Commune was, Vishal, that after I finished the film, I had hit a creative low. And I had a whole bunch of friends I'm very thankful to, including my...
And the film not received that great, right? That's what happened.
No. So again, that's what I'm saying, that the film recovered its money, which is a great thing. But at the same time, that, oh my God, it will become a blockbuster. Nahi hua.
Yeah.
So when you've spent 2.5 years of your life behind something, and you have never failed, and this is another problem in India, right? Success ko, I say, chढ़ते सितारे को सब सलाम करते. But what happens is that failure is equally important because it is that pause that you need. So I suddenly had this pause, but I was feeling extreme creative vacuum. And a whole bunch of my creative friends then started coming. Gaurav Kapoor, Vikram Sathe, Ankur Tiwari, Minnie, Shaheen, my wife, Maria, everybody would just come and chat with me because they were like, it's okay not to be okay, it's fine, there's not a problem. And in that creative, conversations, I suddenly realized there is a richness to creativity which I had not refreshed for a while. And I started refreshing this, and I came up with the thought, and I promise you my thought was in one line: what if you applied the idea of a startup fund to creativity in the performance economy? And I started doing that, but I realized that most creators were hobbyists. They had not thought their ideas through. It was a whim. It was a fancy. It wasn't a plan. So when this was happening, I said, guys, but performance art needs a leg up for today's day and age. And I had become very enamored by spoken word storytelling and poetry, which I had seen some globally. So I said, why don't we try this? It's a sasta sundar tikau idea. Dekhte hain hota kya hai. And we just got people into rooms, Vishal, to tell stories. And Gaurav's idea was, he said, listen, you and Ankur Tiwari are stage performers. Tum log ko taaliyon se khushi mil jati hai, but we must record these stories so that the world can see them. And we started putting these stories on YouTube. And Vishal, 2014, and I think we started 15. We were like rocking. We were like, boom, suddenly exploding. And then we got shows on Amazon. We got 2 shows to do on Amazon. We started doing live events. In 2017, we had over 200,000 people on our YouTube channel. And I was like, boss, and a very good audience, a curated audience. And then we did our festival called Spoken, which became, people just loved it because raw, unadulterated, flawsome stories. I'm flawed.
This was at Geo Gardens. This was at Geo Gardens, right?
And this has become India's answer to, so a foreign performer who came last year said, this is the Coachella of spoken word. I said, man, I'll take that. I can die with that. It's a brilliant thing, because it's really done with a lot of heart. And now we've got 14,000 people who come. Our unique audience across all mediums now is approximately 1 million.
Wow.
And these are great people. Like, you know what happens when you put out a piece of content? If you see very often on YouTube and other places, and I'm not trying to be judgmental, if you read the comments below, there's just shit happening. But when a commune event happens, if you read the comments below, there is respect, there is joy, there is shared creativity. There is people saying, I made a podcast, you want to listen to it. It's about creating a performance art ecosystem which is honest, passionate, which shares things, and which is safe. And like from time to time, if you make a mistake, I tell my team, I say, put it out there, saying you made a mistake. Just be honest. So I think life's come full circle that from where I started on stage, this is about giving other people a stage.
And I think that's really what it is, right? It's about today, what you are really doing with Commune and even with your events business and all of these things, right? You are now in a way nurturing other talent and coaching other talent.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think, in this whole process, Roshan, you have so much experience and knowledge. So what is your recommendation? For example, books. What books do you recommend people to read? Because people just don't have, especially from a creative perspective, what can stimulate them? Of course, you wrote a book recently, about a couple of years back, right?
Yeah. So year before we wrote a book called Speechless. So if you want to know about public speaking, I'm not plugging it. It's a real fun book. People say it's really helpful. So you could always look at that, but that's about public speaking. There is a book called The Artist's Way, which is a beautiful, beautiful book that I found during my lows. And I love that book because it sort of just it just showed me a whole new way of doing things. So to anybody who's out there, they should, I'm sorry, I'm just quickly typing so that I can, I always forget. Here it is. Julia Cameron. And it's a beautiful, beautiful book. I highly recommend to people. There is a book, any book by Guy Kawasaki is brilliant. I love what he says. He's just so wonderful, having been the chief evangelist for Apple. I even currently often tell people saying that, frankly, read any contemporary literature of your times because it's important. You can always read the classics, but aajkal there is so much more that's available. So occasionally, I just saw that a book that was gifted to me 3 years ago is suddenly a Netflix series. A podcast like, Amazon's, Modern Love is now a series. So consume unique content. I won't just say books, but I think The Artist's Way is one book I would definitely say. There's a book that I've just read and reread, and I'm still rereading it because I love it so much, is I started following Anderson Horowitz, and Mark Anderson's book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things, is, I am loving every bit of it because a lot of it's just such real advice. I feel some of these books become a little too heavy and hawa and whatever. So I really, really love these.
And you'll also like Peter Thiel's 0 to 1 is also, in the same category.
Yes, absolutely. 0 to 1 is one thing. To anybody who wants to, the books I grew up on, and even today, while many people have dissed her as a thought leader, but her imagery Ayn Rand's imagery is something I can't forget, whether it's Fountainhead, whether it's Atlas Shrugged, whether it's Anthem, whether it's We the People, whether it's the play Night of January the 16th I did it 2 years ago. I mean, all of these, they're just, it's incredible because, when words move you to that degree, it's just incredible.
Also, apart from books, you have a very unique habit of eating the same thing for breakfast now. And you've been doing that for how many years?
So yeah, actually, from time to time, I would like to make these 2-year kind of things because, it's the same thing with you about Very Great that I want to cut out those decisions which I can avoid. So during the pandemic, I've lived in 4 t-shirts and 4 shorts, and unless I've been forced to wear a pair of jeans or something when I've done it, it's the same thing over and over. So my breakfast actually is now just some sprouted moves and egg. The egg could be in one of 2-3 forms, but it's just that. And some tea with almond milk and honey. And a drop of honey, I frankly don't. And I mean, that's it. I just keep doing that because it's the beginning of the day that I'm sure of. It's the one
So
thing.
what happened to the Lucknowi milky chai to the almond milk chai? What happened?
Yeah, I'll tell you what happened. So when I wanted to lose weight in 2011, I was 96 kilos, Vishal. I mean, you've seen me like that. I was out of breath. It was embarrassing. I would not have fit a screen even in an ultra wide lens. So I stopped doing television. I was not getting called for these things. And and your mind starts playing games. Like, ho gaya, etc. You made your money. And my wife one day turned and said, listen, you are losing hair and you're becoming fat. Choose between the two. I don't want both. And I started laughing and I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, nahi, this is 1 century. I don't want you to hit. Was Sachin ne mari thi century, tumhe nahi mari. And I almost got swayed onto this path so I realized my big problem areas was 15 cups of tea with lots of milk and 2 spoons of sugar each. So I said 30 spoons of sugar, 30 calories a spoon. That's 900 calories. I started counting calories, remember? So I started doing that.
900.
Can you imagine?
Wow.
Just in sugar. Okay. And I would keep wondering, why is my weight going up? Why is my weight going up? Now I am a manic counter. I know exactly what I'm eating, how much I've eaten. I measure. I still do all of that. So first I cut down on the number of cups. Then I started cutting down on the milk. Then I cut down on the sugar. And I started doing this thing called SoFit very recently with Sorab, who's a brilliant online trainer. He's come up with this program. And Shaheen got me onto it in April. I've now done it in 5 cycles of 40 days, 28 days, 40 days like that. And it's amazing because it's like a group of people on WhatsApp. You get together, you have a little conversation, you do your workout, you send videos to each other, etc. But it's a fun online way of doing your physical thing. And it's bought me, I mean, before the pandemic, I was 86 because I traveled a lot and had lots of steaks and lots of good food in the US and Turkey and etc. etc. But when I came back, from 86, I'm down now to 79. During the pandemic during the pandemic, I have rediscovered on certain days my good Lucknowi food. So one day I've got nihari made, one day I've got biryani made, all that I've done. But that's on my indulgence day, which is like, say, one day a week.
So tell me, how do you take an important decision in your life? You have so many points where you had to decide that what do I do next? How do you take?
So small hack, I found these really colorful papers. What I do is I make a list of things that I need to do. So, they are currently not broken up by color. At one point, they were broken up by color. So let's say that I'm currently working on an event called Digital Day. I'm looking at doing something in London. I've got Commune's app that I'm looking at thinking of. We've got an artist committee at our event, associate, blah, blah, blah. So I've written all these down. Every morning I look at these and I reprioritize them depending on the need. And it really helps because, I don't forget, but I know that today the top 5 priorities are this, and the minute I'm done with it, I tear it with great aplomb and throw it away. Makes it really good. But it just, many of us have this habit of, main kar lunga. I keep saying, nahi. Ek to bahut purani line hai, my dad's lines, which he taught me, it's a kaal kare so aaj kar, aaj kare so ab, pal mein parle ho jayegi, bahuri karoge kab. Right? So, that's so, do it now, whatever, etc. And keep prioritizing, and that's what I do. So this sort of keeps me tight. I'm also a planner by nature, so my day is normally planned, everything. Like today when I had to move this by half an hour, I first checked with you because if it didn't fit in, I would have changed the other thing around because it would have been unfair to you, but I have to fit it in.
Well, you are running one of the biggest event planning business. You better be a planner.
Sometimes my team I'd go to a client and sell some crazy idea and they'd come back saying, sir, ab karenge kaise? I said, boss, wo tumhara kaam hai. Because in the early days, it was my job. Now it's theirs.
So between planning and all of this, how many times have you got decisions wrong? And how have you dealt with those situations? Of course, we know about the movie. You think you could have done things differently. So there's always something you can do things differently, right?
So see, again, I think, guys, failure is a part and parcel of what happens in life. And again, I'm saying don't beat yourself over it. If you make the same, something going wrong once is a mistake, twice is a choice. So do not repeat it. And that's when people say, but the mistakes I've often, as I said, at times I believe I'm too trusting, but because of 99 out of 100 times it works in my favor, so I don't mind the one time it goes wrong. I am very good with trying to evaluate. I'm very, very worried about paying people wrongly. So, I'm always very scared of undervaluing someone. So I sometimes overstep in this. I get too diplomatic and saying, Acha Vishal, should I, I'm hiring this. What should I pay? So I get a little perturbed by some of these things, and they build a little bit of my decisions start getting a little fuzzy. So what I do is I have a whole bunch of people I respect. So I go to them and say, okay, I'm not sure of this decision. What do you think? So I try to do that.
And what do you think of destiny? What is your belief around destiny?
Yeah, I'm one of those firm believers that you make your destiny. Shine says, but what if the world ends tomorrow? I said, wherever it will re-emerge, if anybody was on this earth who was part of my concentric circle, they will remember me. I said, you can't lead a life saying everything is preordained, sab dunya mein ho jayega. Jo, again, filmy hu thoda sa, to there was that line, right? Ke tadbir or takdir, right? Destiny and self. Are you self-made? I'm very self-made. So I think everything for me, therefore, has to stem from the fact that you can do it. You can achieve
but it. Then everybody talks about luck, right? ऐसा नहीं आप तो lucky थे यार ये सब उस time radio था आप बहुत lucky थे.
नहीं यार.
Shah Rukh Khan was your senior. You are very lucky.
No. So see, opportunity meeting hard work. That's luck.
Because of late, there's this whole thing about nepotism and, all of that. And I mean, I'm just coming in that context. You've been in the world.
Yeah, it is, I'm telling you, देखो, एक तो क्या हो गया हमारा नया fashion हो गया outrage करना, because everybody loves to hear. I mean, who wants to hear good things? Bad things are so much more attractive. Watching something vicarious is so much more there. Peeping into a keyhole is so much more exciting. Hearing your neighbor shout is so much more whatever. The goodness of things, I think we have to go through a cycle where we come back to some level of goodness, because right now people love all this negativity and outrage and everything else. But nepotism, isn't there, I believe that the nepotism half the time is someone connecting you to an opportunity which maybe should be available to everyone. And if the choice is made in your favor, it's nepotism. But very often, in the line of business I am, you cannot put a bad actor on screen and expect them to survive beyond one film. एक film मिल जाएगी boss, 100 नहीं मिलेंगी. And they will acknowledge that they are not good. A bad writer, आप boss बहुत अच्छा है, एक बार try कर, नहीं होता. Because here the audience is judge. And particularly in the performing arts, you will not sit through a bad play just because it was so-and-so's son in it. You will not. You need to engage the audience. So I am born of a art form or a thing where if you don't engage your audience, you're as good as dead. You have to stay alert, you have to stay current, you have to stay informed. And that's what I keep saying, that, that make sure that you've got all those things doing. And the one thing which I keep saying, in the digital world, pebbles of possibilities into oceans of opportunities. Keep trying, keep doing. During the pandemic, Vishal, we must have tried 40 different formats at Commune. 30 must have failed, but 10 succeeded. And those 10 today are our properties that are giving us money.
And you also did the virtual stage, and I saw you created that whole virtual.
We did that. You remember? So like we tried to say, can we gamify spoken word? Success, failure, no problem. We are, the jury's out on that part, saying whatever. We did a podcasting festival last week. Huge success. We did a national story slam virtually. Great success. We tried to do a play online. Brilliant. After 5 shows, batching the dates of all the actors was getting difficult, even on virtual. And sometimes, someone's signal would drop, etc. So what do you do? So you come up with new problems, but you come up with new solutions. That's what the joy of creativity is.
So tell me, how do you manage your sleep?
So typically, I used to always turn and say that people who sleep with a clear conscience sleep a lot better. But I am a bit of a worrier. I will not say no, because I feel very beholden to things. So if I have a project tomorrow, I'm beholden. If I have something happening, I get a little. And my mother said, "Listen, you've done enough. Let it be." But I do that. I try to be in bed by about 10 o'clock. I then watch or read something. But my hack is I put on my headphones and I listen to really good voices. I don't like to listen to very dramatic stuff because then your brain wakes up. But there is an amazing podcast called Game of Drones.
Game of Drones.
Drones. So it's a guy whose voice used to put people to sleep. So he made a podcast about sleeping.
So ASMR. So that what you're talking about is ASMR.
It's almost like ASMR. But I'm telling you, you hear this guy, he's talking about Game of Thrones, but in a droning voice. It's so funny. But it puts you to sleep in 10 minutes. So I do that.
Wow, that's an amazing hack. So Game of Drones it is.
I love it. Game of Drones. And they have a 7-hour special as well. So I listen to that so that and sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night once, just because I'm not light sleeper, but I want to go to the restroom or something. And because it's still playing in my ear, I'm still in that calm drift.
Oh, wow.
And then I wake up early. And I wake up by about 6:37. Sometimes it's 6:30 because I have a friend in the US. I like to chat with him often. And then I will spend 2 hours by myself reading, browsing.
And do you do any kind of meditation? Because that's now one of the things everybody has been talking about.
So again, Muse, I used to use the Muse band. I used to use it a lot, but recently I have not done so much. So what I do is that I religiously work out at 9 a.m. And for me, that is meditative as a practice. Because so this 7 to 9 in the morning, Vishal, is my best time because I'm reading, I'm watching something, I'm writing something, I'm scribbling. It's my 2 hours of personal indulgence.
So let me give you a new hack I've learned and I've been trying it. Or maybe you're already doing it. You're always ahead of me on these things. So it's called earthing. Have you heard of earthing or grounding?
I haven't tried it, but I heard of this, but I haven't. I'm usually taking it down.
This is basically walking bare feet on grass. मतलब जो हमको सब बोला गया है. But the idea is for 10-15 minutes in the morning or in the evening, you are supposed to wear on sand. Basically, connect your body to the ground. And that's what all electronics do, right?
You remember you are the one who had introduced me to those shoes that look like socks?
Yeah.
My God, ladies and gentlemen, Vishal is responsible for many people discovering new things to their peril later.
So actually, but the funny thing is, this is all what we knew. Like Nange Pair Chalo garden mein.
Correct.
My grandmother had told me once. I mean, these are things which.
मैं बता रहा हूँ. There are 2 or 3 things, and again, I mean, the success of Patanjali is not just because of a Baba Ramdev. It is because the world is slowly realizing that, boss, commercial industry has made, and I'm sorry I can't use the word, but you know what I'm saying,
yeah.
Made a sea of all of us. Because today, I have an Ayurved who I call occasionally and he gives me something. I have these drops that I might have sometimes that make me feel, and they're nothing. They're just, there is a very old allopathic, homeopathic, and then there is this Unani medicine called, which a friend of mine in Hyderabad, Anuj Gurwara, gave to me, which is called Zinda Tilismat. It is so wonderful. It's this tincture kind of thing which solves almost 80% of any problem. And I remember that when I was a kid, my mother used to give me something similar. So I think we all go back, slowly we are all going back to nature, which is great.
You've traveled all around the world. So are there any favorite destinations where you like to keep going back, or you recommend people they should go once?
So I'll tell you, while I've been to San Francisco only once, but the minute I landed there, the city spoke to me. There was something about it that I said, I could live here. The same happens to me in New York because I love the hustle bustle, but my go-to place.
But San Francisco today, very frankly, I've stayed in San Francisco for some time, and recently when I went there, downtown San Francisco, forget the Bay Area, the city of San Francisco is filled with homeless people and only drug addicts. It's gone really bad.
I know. That's what I heard. That's what I was told, and I felt really sad about it. And honestly, but it was only that one trip, and I was with a very dear friend of mine, Sridhar Iyengar, who you might know also. And it was like, and just beautiful, because when you have a friend, the city becomes different. But London to me is my heart of culture because, I'm a theatre guy at the end of it, yeah. So I'll slink into these back areas and watch a off-Broadway play or something, enjoy a performance, suddenly catch Equus one night, Shakespeare one night, something on Broadway, do all of that, go to Leicester, sit and watch someone perform. And as I said, at the heart, I'm a performer and a content creator, so I love doing all of that. So London is great. The other place which I love, and my son and I, in fact, have been making these wild plans of going to Japan, is because I was a Toyota brand ambassador for about 7 years. I loved Japan. I love their dedication. I love I love the fact that they are so traditional and they are so modern. I love their food. I don't know. I mean, I think I was once told by some of them.
In the last 3 years, I must have gone to Japan 10 times.
So whenever you're going next, I'm just going to tag along.
Tag along. And by the way, you know who's the other Japan maniac? Sandeep Goyal.
So Rajesh also, by the way.
No, Sandeep has written a book recently on Japan because...
Yeah, I know. In fact, I read that book. I went to the launch of the earlier one as well. That's it, because he became so close to Dentsu for that period of time. And see, that's what I'm saying, that these cultures, these... again, I think Zindagi mein, there's a Javed Akhtar साहब की poem जो मुझे बहुत पसंद है, which is called वो कमरा याद आता है. So in that he says, मैं अक्सर जिंदगी की चिलचिलाती धूप से तप कर, मैं अक्सर दूसरों के और अपने झूठ से थक कर, मैं सबसे लड़के खुद से हार के जब भी उसे कमरे में जाता हूँ, वो कमरा याद आता है. And he talks then about the room of his childhood. And I don't know. Maybe it is turning 50, maybe it is nostalgia, maybe it is earthing, maybe it is going back to your roots. But somehow these things that have a lot more love, things that have a lot more, which are long lasting, are suddenly attracting me a lot more. I think sometimes we get conscious with our ephemeral existence and look for things that last longer.
So I think, it's said that we are all trying to look for meaning. So abhi we are trying, hum log meaning khojne ke chakkar mein, but abhi, given where you are not, clearly you don't look 50, you are much younger, much more energetic and following the bulletproof diet and exercise and all the stuff you do. You are going to be around till you are 100. So you are possibly just at halfway mark at the least.
True.
So अगले 50 साल क्या करने का प्लान है?
तो यार 2-3 चीजें हैं. एक तो मुझे लगता है कि this big belief of the passion economy is something that I am very excited about, because I genuinely believe that this is the time for the passion economy, and whoever can figure how to deliver intimate content experiences at scale is going to crack it. One. Secondly, biohacking is something which you and I have enjoyed. I mean, you're doing it with Goki at a much bigger level, but I also feel that at some point when this singularity happens, at some point when age is no longer a question, we will make very different choices in our lives. So this engagement with new ideas by these small investments that I do is there. But for me, frankly, if commune can become a virtual as well as a physical space where creativity and ideas thrive, and I can be its Master Shifu, as some people call me, or Ugave, as some people call me, or Yoda. A bunch of these people use these words, and I find them very sweet because they come from a place. And many of the people who work with me say, today only there was something on Twitter which was quoted, and a friend of mine immediately turned and said, this is you. And as long as I can be that, I personally feel that I will be most excited. So I'm in fact just looking for it. Give me 1 second. It's here. Yeah. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. Frankly, if you can just do that, occasionally, in your inbox, there'll be a letter from someone saying, remember 15 years ago, you told me this, and this changed my life, or you gave me this advice. I don't know, it makes me feel very happy. मुझे लगता है कि मैं मेरी बीवी को डर लगता है किसी दिन मैं किसी माउंट में जाके बैठ के संन्यास लेके सिर्फ ज्ञान बांटूंगा, लेकिन वो भी अच्छा है.
But that is the best part about Gyan, right? आप जितना बांटोगे उतना बढ़ेगा. This is among the few things, right? There is love, there is education, there is knowledge, right? So I think part of the idea of doing this podcast is exactly that, right? That spread this knowledge as far as possible. What we are all doing, there is no secret. The secret sauce is that there is no secret sauce.
True.
And everybody thinks...
No, you're absolutely right. And I think more than that, the secret sauce is to always have a tongue that can recognize new flavors and appreciate them. Don't get jaded. I keep saying people are such jaded ho jate hain. I look at them, I once went to a car automotive company's office, which was run by a foreign company and whatever, but everybody sat dressed in the same clothes, in the same look, the same feel, and in the same length. And I broke into a cold sweat, and I came back and I called Shine and I said, baby, if I had to do this, I would die. मुझसे नहीं हो सकता.
No, but That's exactly, you all know what Harari has already said, right? As Homo sapiens, if robots can take over a lot of, like call center, today there are bots which will talk to you like
Absolutely.
a call center executive.
Absolutely.
So eventually, if bots are going to take over a lot of jobs, if you are not doing creativity, because right now the only thing which AI is not able to do is creativity.
Exactly.
And what is the one thing human brain can do is creativity. So I think it's all about nurturing that part. And I think the best part about what you are doing with Commune and everything out there is giving boost to creativity. So while White Hat Junior wants to make you learn programming and coding and make your little bacha into a programmer, I would say that if you have a bacha, that bacha needs to think of becoming creative, because that is the job. So the only two jobs are being creative or being CEO. चलो वो दोनों तो हम लोग में बच जाएंगे या तो
हमने कर लिया. हाँ. So I really no, but you're absolutely right. I think creativity. That it's that book that I was reading last year called The Fuzzy and the Techie. Saying that Steve Jobs, great genius. No. Steve Jobs read calligraphy. He studied Greek mythology. It was his love at one point of some of those things that came and combined with Wozniak's ideas, etc. as well. There is a joy to looking at that machine and wondering at how beautiful it is, but because it's made with that eye. I saw Billie Eilish. I couldn't see the concert, but what she did online, everybody was experimenting with online. But what she did was, again, an experiment, this ability to do things in an unafraid, but creativity. Honestly, I think creativity will keep us going. And conversations like this always.
No, absolutely. And I think, clearly with you doing all these creative things around, we are going to again get you back on the show at some point of time again.
Always
I think it has been, I didn't realize that we are almost touching 2 hours. We really,
wow.
And folks out there, we can keep talking, right? That's the best part about us, right? We can, and we'll continue, even though we don't talk for months in the middle, we will continue wherever we are.
I know that. Fun fact to everybody, there was an election that was happening in the event thing, and during the election, everybody wanted to get people to speak and tell people what the future is, etc. And Vishal was called, and I was sitting there very quietly, and I realized that it was, so suddenly somebody turned and introduced, said, and Vishal said, Roshan's here, and he said something so beautiful, and I was like, everybody turned and said, did you tell him to say that? I said, no, we meet with a genuine enthusiasm and genuine respect and love for each other. Like, as I keep saying, every time I see Goki do something, I said, look at this man. From that day in Delhi, Vishal, when you showed me the first time, look at where you've come, look at what you've done with it, and karma points, and there will be a coach, and this and that. And the last device, when you showed me the image, I wanted to throw away my Apple Watch. Look at this. But it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And I hope that I can do enough to continue these conversations, even otherwise, but that I'm of value enough to come and do these.
No, I think that's the beauty, right, Roshan? See, we are having these conversations with only one goal in mind, that we are going to help others. We could
Correct.
very well discuss this in our living rooms or with our friends, but I think, everybody out here, if you are thinking of creativity, or if you're not thinking of creativity, I think you're missing something, and that's really what you need to do. So once again, Roshan, with that, and actually, let me part by one last question to you, that if you were given a time machine, right? And I'm saying time machine because I know you may want to go in the future or the past. Where will you go and what will you do? That's my last question.
So I'm going to totally indulge myself and go and see Robin Williams performing at the Met, because life is nothing except sometimes indulging yourself. So I think I've done enough. I've seen enough. I've read enough. But not having interacted with Robin Williams, and I'm so inspired by everything he did, because I thought he was so smart and so intelligent. And then to see how he died, I don't know. I would just want to be in a time machine and be with him. Either at the time that he was, when he committed suicide, I would actually want to be there and tell him, don't. You're an inspiration to too many of us. Or I would want to be at the Met when he did that whole performance the first time and showed the world how brilliant he was, because that's a man I would love to celebrate any day. And it's a very vicarious, indulgent thought, but it's what I would like to do.
By the way, time machine में एक ही बार जा सकते हैं, तो आप वही जाओगे और कहीं नहीं जाओगे. Fantastic. Thanks a lot once again, Roshan. It was a great pleasure talking to you. Wish you a very, very happy Diwali and all the other things. And I know you'll be traveling. You're traveling tomorrow, right? You said.
Correct. Yes. So the same to you, and I will possibly send you some pictures from Dubai, and and when I'm working out, I'll tell more and more people about what you're up to with Goki, etc.
Well, the new thing I'm up to is grounding. Just walking on the grass.
Earthing, grounding.
Earthing. I think, folks, we are done. Thanks a lot.
I hope you enjoyed that show. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'd like to thank the sponsors on the network this week, Storytel and The Whole Truth Foods. Thank you for supporting us. So a great bunch of episodes this week. First, let me tell you about The Note with Mahrukh Inayat. It was featuring Asaduddin Owaisi. She spoke to the AIMIM leader to understand what the Indian Muslim voter wants and how his party is any different from the BJP. On Advertising is Dead, Varun spoke with Malika Sadani. Malika is the founder and CEO of the Moms Company. They discussed the science of motherhood. On Naan Curry with Sadaf and Archit, Dhananjay Chuck of the Edges and Sledges podcast showed up, so we did another crossover, this time with food and cricket. On Agla Station Adulthood, Ritasha and Ayushi talked to Gaurang Sangvi, head of digital business at DSP Mutual Fund. The episode has some logical and realistic advice, especially for millennials, on how to invest their money. Shunya One is back this week with Sheila Aditya and myself. We spoke to Anirudh Singla of Pepper Content this week. Really interesting conversation. Anirudh gave us some real deep insights into content creation and how they're thinking about different ways of creating it. Do check them out. Really fun show, really fun conversation. And with that, we hope to see you again next week.
Hey, I'm Zarina, your peak performance coach, leadership coach, and life coach. And I'm here to unleash that power within you with your weekly dose of mantras and empowerment. Tune in to Monday Mantras every Monday for your quick fix and the Empowering series with Zarina Poonawalla every Thursday for riveting real-life stories. You can catch us on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcast from.